Hey, to all my physical therapists that are feeling burnout, especially if you're tired of this whole game of exchanging time for money. And healthcare is going through some crazy transitions. Decreasing reimbursement rates are a real thing. The pressure to actually treat more patients in a shorter period of time because it has rates going down. Updating your EHR constantly. And we didn't even talk about the whole family life and just life outside the actual clinic, life outside the practice. I tell you what, man, there's a way to revitalize your career, to bring life back into what you originally were passionate about. And I think it's by lending your voice to people in MedTech. Man, we need more people to step into this role of becoming a MedTech influencer that really have the experience, not just like the hypotheticals, not just the things they saw like on somebody's cool PowerPoint, but like working day in, day out with patients. They can give honest feedback. They're transparent about what they're seeing out there. And most important, they can expose some of the technologies that can help improve people's lives. We're going to dive into this on today's podcast. Stay tuned. What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Joe Lemon. Got a really good show for you guys today. We're going to dive into this topic of why it is so important that more B2B companies, medical device companies in particular, start collabing with influencers. Now, these could be content creators, these could be content curators. So they don't just have to be someone that is pushing a product like they do in B2C. And we're going to break that down too. This space is growing, and the traditional methods of doing what you saw on like A Pursuit of Happiness, where you saw Will Smith going door to door, trying to sell his actual widgets, right? And then end up with paint all over his place looking crazy. That's how MedTech has operated for years. This is the process that they've been about. And I got to say, this is something that has worked. It's worked for plenty of time, right? And mainly because this market is so fragmented, it's hard to get data and get insight on so many small mom and pop businesses. But as there's a couple of trends happening, and let's dive into them, as this trend of you have more of this private equity coming into buying up a lot of private practices, you have less people that are just owning their business, right? It's owned by this larger corporation. So you can just go to the head of a purchasing department and you can sell to 100 practices now. The other trend that's happening, obviously, is that, man, there's just so much data out there. You can find people a lot easier. They're on some platform. They're somewhere online where you can connect with them. And so there's less reason, it's less effective to have a whole bunch of sales reps going door to door. And this brings me to my last point, which is the fact that they're online. So why not go where they are? And so this is where the influencer or this content creator or this curator is needed for MedTech. Let's talk about how, if you're a healthcare provider, how you can get involved with this space. Before we do that, the why stuff, man, it matters that we talked about in the intro is that the burnout is there. Just the overall place for a lot of healthcare providers, I feel like, is in this world where you're constantly exchanging time for money. And I get people to pull me aside every once in a while and ask how they can start doing more content, how they can get into this space as a consultant. And there's a lot of blur on how you make that leap, especially if you're probably not feeling like, what can I bring to the table? I'm just a physical therapy aide. I'm just a therapist. I've recently graduated. I don't have 20 years of knowledge where I can speak deeply about all these different technologies and break down the science and make sure that we have the proper type of research in front of folks. Well, there's a process here that I believe that this is why you don't need to be that person. MedTech companies will normally go out and seek out KOLs. This is a common thing that's been happening, tried and true. I don't think it's going anywhere. KOLs are key opinion leaders. And these are people that have that industry expertise. They know how to talk deeply about science, understand the industry, understand how it really applies to patient outcomes. Now, where the MedTech influencer really sits, and I got this trifecta trust piece, is that MedTech influencers are normally facilitators and understand the industry enough to be able to connect the companies or the technology even with the right KOLs and then facilitate some of those conversations to answer questions after people are trying to implement those different devices and technology. And, this is something that salespeople have done for years. But since you have platforms where you can scale out this information and we have studios in our phone, it's just like, it's hard to see why more people won't be moving this way, because this is what the market is demanding. They want to go with the influencer. And people from my age demo, I'm about to be 41. You look down on the influencer play. At least I was for years, until you start seeing that it's working. And then it's going to be different than how it works in B2C, which is business to consumer. You think about a lot of those are more so transactional plays where people are trying to sell lip gloss, makeup, or they're selling some other widget that's like has a little gadget that's under $100 that you can normally see on QVC or Shark Tank. And those work great for influencers, right? Don't need a lot of trust and the cost is pretty low. But if you're in my side of the table, you're in medical device, man, and these products are just pretty, they're not even huge lifts, but they're always going to be around $30K, $40,000, even $50,000. Then you're going to want some more education there. You're going to want to know that you're buying something that's not going to hurt somebody, most importantly. And it just takes a longer process to kind of get that information. But you can expedite that with someone that has built up trust and credibility, like an influencer or someone that's creating content already in that space. And this is the need for why we need more people. Now, the big question is how? How do you become a MedTech influencer? Because I'm somebody now that's been in this space for 8 years, and I'm constantly looking for more folks to get in here with me on creating content around what's happening in our world. And I tell you that there's not a lot of people. So this is a ploy to go get more people in there. And you simply reach out to marketing managers like myself. You start building a relationship. But I think before you do that, it even makes more sense if you can collaborate or connect with them on content, people that are producing other information out there in the whole ethos. You should know them, or you should at least connect with them. You got to do stuff on LinkedIn, at least have a profile. Because if you're going to look at doing something with a medical device company, they're going to know that you're professional to a degree. You don't have to sell out. You don't got to not be yourself. You can be you, but you have to have a presence where the decision makers are. This is why I believe that MedTech influencers are going to take off. These content creators, we just need more content, point blank period. And we need more curators, like people that are willing to get in and host conversations. These could be done in person at trade shows. Like I do this at my booth where I bring past some of the speakers. We chop it up. We talk for 5-10 minutes at the booth. It's a killer strategy, I believe, that people should deploy. As well as, man, you can just have your own podcast. We just do a short series. You don't got to create content for the rest of your life. You can create short series content around certain conditions or around certain products or technology that makes sense. Or even a multimodal approach has been killing these days. So with that being said, man, I would love for more people to get involved with this space. If you found this conversation valuable, please go like the podcast, go subscribe to the show, tell a friend about the show. If you didn't like the podcast, still go tell a friend about the show. Still go, tell somebody else to go like it. But I think at the end of the day, man, patients are suffering a lot of times because they just don't know what's out there. And from the technology side, it's hard to get the word out there. And we need people that have real life, real world experience. Healthcare providers, aides, I don't care what your level is. If you're curious and you're willing to lend your voice, this is something you should really consider. And most importantly, it empowers you to really take control of your career. So if you're into that, man, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And there's a whole process that we can dive into. But if you're interested, connect with me, DM me, and I can give you all the nuanced steps with that. So with that being said, I look forward to coming back next week with more on the podcast.